Hello and welcome to Expert Matters, where we bring you stories of resilience, innovation, and purpose driven journeys. Today, we have the privilege of diving into the remarkable story of Shailesh Anand, a visionary entrepreneur whose path has been anything but conventional. From his beginnings as an engineering graduate at Thapar University to aspiring for a career in Air Force and later rejecting the confinements of traditional job roles, Shailesh's journey is one of self-discovery and bold decisions. From launching his first venture out of necessity to scaling startups and working with global innovators at Uber, Shailesh has continually embraced challenges to refine his expertise. His story is a testament to the power of learning through perseverance and adapting with purpose. Join us as we uncover how Shailesh is now helping D2C brands thrive, blending his rich experiences in entrepreneurship, system thinking, and the startup ecosystem. His narrative is bound to inspire anybody who is looking to carve their own path in a world of endless possibilities. Let's dive into the conversation and let's understand how his extraordinary journey has been a relentless pursuit of growth. First of all, Shailesh, thank you so much for taking out time for this, and thank you so much for joining us to share your insightful journey with all of our audiences.
Yeah, thanks, Shruti. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for setting up the session. And I hope I can stand up to the warm introduction that you just gave, and I can add some value to whoever is watching. Yeah, super excited to have a call. Yeah.
Thank you so much again. And first of all, we would like to understand about your journey. Can you just help us understand, as a young boy, as an engineering graduate, what inspired you to choose this path of, entrepreneurship?
Yeah, sure. So, I don't have a crazy story of like I had dreams to, start working on a startup or things along those lines. Because I understand sometimes you get to hear so many of such stories. Uh, like when I started off, when I was basically in my college, I was learning for mechanical engineering. This is what I was learning for. And when I was in my process of becoming an engineer, I figured out that I don't think this is something that I would like to pursue. And also, I had been, uh, I think, since a long time, I cannot point a finger when, but I think I
Mhm.
had some rough understanding of that I would want to be a part of an organization which is into nation building and something of that sort. And I was also thinking about how can I choose a career where some of my interests are always aligned in terms of how I want to live my life. So it was more around lifestyle rather than what to do and how to pick up jobs and what is the opportunity which is presenting itself. So from that point, I think I was always inclined towards and fascinated towards defense services and whatnot. And I was into fitness at that point of time because it shaped me as someone who just moved out of school and then started, not school exactly, because we all then go to coaching before we enter
Right.
engineering colleges. But yeah, the journey of starting to put some work on my health shaped a lot of things, and that's how fitness came in. So I was just connecting all the dots, and somehow defense was the answer for me. So that was the only goal I had. So I started evaluating what could I do there and whatnot. So obviously, uh, somehow I landed up in a conversation with myself saying, okay, maybe I think this is the spot for me because it aligns with an organization which is again, a defense service, which is towards nation building, serving, and this was my core value as a human. And also then again it will keep me fit all my life because the job role requires me to do be that. So I think that was a very rational thought that led me to that. And then that's why I made uh, getting into Air Force my only goal. And it's a very interesting journey to look at when I look at it also, because when I now remember most of the friends and people who knew me because they knew that this guy is going to join defense services, because I was so driven in terms of preparing for it, and my whole persona was, or life was developing around it and nothing else. I had no interest in sitting for placement. I had no interest in whatsoever in terms of which company is coming to the campus for placement and this and that, because I knew that I couldn't do it. But unfortunately, what happened was I had an injury in the knee while playing football, and it kind of changed certain things for me. And I couldn't basically clear certain exams, because I used to always clear the written exam, but then you have also, in defense you have SSB, and in Air Force particularly it's AFSB, which is
Mm-hmm.
where you have to go for a physical kind of a evaluation process. So I couldn't do that, and that was a turning point for me, because uh, the only thing I ever thought about was this, like, this is me, this is who I'll become, this is my life, end of story. And because of this change, now I had to now think differently, and that's how I started to now turn towards startups, because I was like, I think I'm not made for a regular job. When I say regular, I'll be also mindful of not saying that jobs are bad, because that's not the thing. It's just who I was at that point, and I think I knew somewhat that I may not be someone who'll be the right fit for a job where, there's certain setup and rules in terms of how you can do things and whatnot. And also my experience in uh, during my internship at one of the corporations who was into, let's say, creating, designing engines and cars. So I was there as an intern. So that also gave me some uh, on ground experience of, hey, do you want to do this for an extended period of time, or for the rest of your life? And I think the natural answer was no, which kind of validated my theory of, I don't think I'm made for a job kind of a setup. So it was all out of taking care of my own need, which I think I knew best at that point in time. So after exploring a couple of business opportunities, because I thought this is the right way for me to go ahead in terms of building a career, because then I also get to take care of what I need to take care of, like in terms of aligning my needs and interests, and I can do pretty much anything. Because again, you're building a business, you can basically solve a problem and do anything. And since I told you, I mentioned in a part of the like a major factor was fitness, so I thought, why not do something there and build a business around it? And that's how I started thinking. And it's funny when I say it now, I thought of first starting a fitness program or a gym based on what resources I had.
Mm-hmm.
And then I evaluated, and then I was like, no, I think I can't do it, because a large capital is involved. So this was again a
Right.
new insight that I got in my journey of, like,
Uh-huh.
going from someone aspiring for defense services to now maybe thinking of starting a business. Because I don't come from a family who has ever built a business or have thought about it, because my parents, both of them, are like into government services. They're doctors, and they're not known such domains. So there's no guidance there also. So, but in my exploration of how do I start the first business, which is my interest also, which is fitness, I quickly realized I'll need a lot of capital to do that. So it's not possible to start a business in that sense. But I was reading a lot. I was always curious about what I wanted to do in terms of interests I had. I was always reading about, let's say, what was in fitness, but now business became a thing. So I started reading a lot about it. I figured out, if capital is a thing, I need to start something where maybe a minimal capital is involved. And one of my juniors and then business partner approached me, hey, we could start something around a service business, which is a BPO setup, which is the first business I got into, because it didn't involve a lot of capital. At least at that point in time, I thought it didn't, but it did. And that was a total disaster after a point, but it gave me a lot of learnings. We'll come to that, but that's how I started the first business, because it involved less capital as compared to other businesses. So I
Right.
think when I share the story, it always became of answering the next question that I have in front of me to arrive at the, a problem which is my own of defining a career for myself, which also I think I can do justice to, and I can be true to. I don't want to be in a place where I'm there for the sake of it and then regretting it because I know deep down that maybe this is not for me, right? So it was
Mm-hmm.
not a plan in that sense. It was always answering the next question and solving the next problem for myself and eventually arriving there. So yeah, so this was that, and then quickly I realized when I was running this first business right out of the college, and because I was then also attending a lot of summits which was startup related early, because I think it was around 2016, and it was
Mm-hmm.
the time where I was also living in Gurgaon, which was kind of hub for most startups and these kind of conversations. And this
Mm-hmm.
was when India was getting up to speed in terms of, hey, there's something called a startup, and you can possibly build something because the world is doing that, especially in US. Why not
Mm-hmm.
do this? So I was attending a lot of summits and talks from founders and whatnot, and I was reading a lot because that's my thing also, to kind of get into being more curious around what I want to do. And at that point,
Mm-hmm.
I realized the business also was not working out for me because uh, one of the things that I did was I was being honest to myself that, hey, I think, bro, you don't have the right skills to run a business. So maybe first get the skills. So at that point, since I was sharing the startup story, I was very interested in this space, which was a startup ecosystem that was building in India. And obviously, the stories were coming from US. So I was following a lot of work related to, startups in US. And then there was this guy I was following who was Travis Kalanick. He was the founder and CEO of Uber at that point in time. And I was like, this is pretty cool guy and what he's building and how he's saying things and how he's building stuff. So maybe this is a good company and maybe I can go there and learn and see if I can pick up skills that can then in long term help me to build businesses, because then again it's a startup, it's a playing field, you can explore, test out things, and that's how the thought crossed my mind. And coincidentally, one of my friends came back from Beijing, China. He was working in one of the
Mm-hmm.
startups, and he said, "Hey, bro, if you're in Gurgaon, can I live with you for a while because I don't have a place to live?" I was like, "Why not?" And he said, "Hey, by the way, I just did an internship with Uber." I was like, "What? Uber? Oh, nice." Now I have someone who I can get inside information from to
Right.
understand how to crack the interview and whatnot. And that's how I kind of started applying for it. And fortunately, I got into it with the core
Oh.
goal of understanding how startups are built and also how to uh, basically getting the experience of working with the best minds in the world. So that's how I got into Uber, and I was lucky to get into it. And it was exactly what I was thinking in terms of experience to learn so much. And the next
Mm-hmm.
natural step for me was after Uber to kind of and apply what I learned, and that's how I then joined an early stage startup in Bombay. And this is how
Mm-hmm.
it was very organic for me in the sense of there was no plan as such. It was just the next problem that was in front of me to solve it, to eventually kind of realize and design the larger vision that I had. And with this whole
Right.
process of understanding my situation and working on it and eventually building a career out of it, I realized that my my mission would a fair thing to say was that my mission would be to contribute into the startup ecosystem that was building in India, because I anyways has had so much curiosity and interest there. So why not do that? And that's how I
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, if I am successful in some building this early stage startup with the founders I was working with at that point in time, I think that will be my validation of my idea of that, hey, now I have the skill to now go out and build my own business. So this was in Bombay, and the company I was working with, the early stage startup, they were building uh, uh, an advertising technology kind of a you know product. I was helping them with uh, prototyping, building teams, setting up systems in sales, also strategy, how to present it. While I was at it, I also got the opportunity to work on financial models and investor deck and whatnot to present the solutions and products. So it gave me a diverse experience in terms of uh, virtually actually building a business from scratch, which I wanted to, and gave me a hands-on experience. And I thought, hey, if I'm doing it for someone else, eventually I wanted to do it for myself. Why not just start doing it? Because I was not finding the growth I needed there. Uh, because again, I wanted some kind of flexibility in terms of how I can execute my ideas faster. That's how basically I ended up here where I'm now, which is I started Metagrowth from the last learning, which was into advertising technology, D2C space. So that's how the genesis came around for Metagrowth. That maybe for the right for the experience I have of building startups, consulting for startups, and now I'm in advertising slash online digital marketing space for D2C. Why not use my talent pool, my network, and expertise there to build something? And there was a huge gap that I saw there, because in the process we interviewed like 200 plus agencies in India uh,
Oh
to
God.
understand, because there was a partner program we were running there, like something along those
Mm-hmm.
lines. And because of that, I got to the root, like I got to understand the problem in the agency model and what the
Mm-hmm.
D2C brands are usually facing. So I found that during that time I also had some kind of a health crisis on a personal level. I had to take a sabbatical. I took a sabbatical, thought about the process of building an idea around this problem. So it was
Mm-hmm.
not, hey, I got an idea, let's build it. It's more around, hey, there's a problem, let's solve for the problem. And the answer was Metagrowth, which was then again a D2C growth solutions company, which was aiming to fill the gap of a reliable and trustworthy and honest partner in growth, which is
Mm-hmm.
not on running on an agency model, but they're basically your skin in the game partners who can consult you on a broader themes uh, uh, outside of just performance marketing. And that's how Metagrowth came into being. And now we are having a conversation. And similar lines, Hyperhunt happened, which is the second company I'm building, which is an active company, both of them. Uh, because while I was gaining my expertise in marketing and growth and all things growth for startups essentially, or D2C, I realized there are only two main broader themes around growth for any business, which is one, which was coming from my personal experience building businesses, also consulting people and looking into early stage startups and whatnot, that if you have answer to a growth engine, and if you have the right team working with you, uh, you have a higher chances of success in startups. So for
Correct.
marketing, the answer was Metagrowth.
Mm-hmm.
For the right team, the answer was Hyperhunt, because at Hyperhunt we help startups and early stage startups hire A players, senior, mid senior, or leadership level. So it was kind of answers to the problems that I saw around me and, let's say, in my own business, that if we could build engines which are growth engines for startups or D2C businesses, which is marketing
Mm-hmm.
led, growth led, answer is Metagrowth, or finding the right team, which is Hyperhunt. I think we're in a very decent spot uh, to fulfill the larger mission we had, which was contributing to the uh, startup ecosystem of India. Right. So this is long and short of it, mostly long, I think, of the story, how we are on the present day. And there's so many things happening in both, uh, businesses. looking forward to a lot of things. But for now, I'll be uh, happy to have this conversation with you and see how I can help and answer a couple of questions that people who are listening and watching might have that can help their you know in their journey. Yeah,
I think a lot of our audiences, a lot of students and young minds would be able to relate it to you, Shailesh, because I think you come from your journey has been very relevant to what a younger generation is now doing. First of all, they can
yeah,
obviously and entirely relate with what career options everybody thinks of. Somebody wants to become a doctor, somebody wants to go into a government services. As we were discussing before recording, that there are students who
sure.
invest a lot of time preparing for government exams, civil
Yeah,
services, but unfortunately, they feel, they have this unknown or this strong guilt inside them that we are not able to achieve what we had to, and now we are getting into corporate, and our colleagues of the same age, they are at much higher rank as we were supposed to
yeah,
be. So if we would have invested more time to this, we could have gone to a better place. I think this guilt answers your journey. I mean, it is very clear looking at your journey and your experience that wheresoever we are, we always take experiences, and it will help us
yeah,
to shape your career at the end of the day. So very
sure,
inspiring.
sure.
I loved hearing from your experiences. Moving on to my second question, I think this is also going to be one of the biggest challenge in young minds. When we want to open a business, say for example, if I want to become an entrepreneur, I want to learn from a corporate environment. I want to work for a few years, like you did, and then I want to open up and jump into entrepreneurship. So, in your opinion, what do you think? What are the major life lessons, or maybe what are the major skills you learn from those corporate years, or you should focus more towards it, which will eventually help us to grow our businesses at the end of the day?
Yeah, yeah. That's a great question, by the way, and I think it definitely will help a lot of people listening. Uh, I think, if I'm being honest, there's no right answer there in terms of should you first take some experience in a job and then eventually do business, or you just do business, basically start off with building a business, right? I
Mm-hmm.
can what I can share is how I thought about it, and maybe I'll give some someone listening or watching some mental models to work around. So for me, for instance, I think what I was doing is just chasing my curiosities in terms of what I was curious about. Topics being, maybe it was initially it was fitness, then it was just being very curious about the startup ecosystem that was building in India, the problems that people were solving when building startups, and then eventually being in tune with that. So when you are in it, not for the sake of finding the next move, but actually being in the zone wherever you are in this process of your journey, you then get to find some nuances or insight that will actually get you to the next step. So you don't need to plan it or think about it, not have a plan in the sense of a traditional way of thinking about, if I have to do this, then I have to take certain steps or not. So what I'm trying to also get to is that as a person, you have to just identify that what are the interests and how can you then best pursue it, like, and being honest to yourself and say, hey, let's say if answers are two different approaches, one is getting trained on job first and then starting a business, or starting a business, evaluate by saying, hey, let me take a piece of paper and a pen and see what skills are required to build a business, right? Obviously, I'm not talking about
Right.
reading books or startup or podcasts or whatnot. I'm just saying, just write it down according to you uh, what is it that you need. And today, I think you do not need to go to a consultant or actually listen to multiple, videos on YouTube or whatnot. You can simply go to ChatGPT and give a prompt saying, hey, if I were to start this, what are the 10 or 15 or whatever skills you need to make this business successful? it'll give you the answer to
Right.
what skills you'll need. Now you have to be honest and rate yourself, against every skill. Like, do you have
Mhm.
proficiency in skill A, B, C, D, whatever it means? And based on the answers, I think then you need to decide if you think you can manage everything yourself or you have a reliable partner. I would say for you,
Mhm.
the natural answer would be to start a business and then learn while you're building it, right? If you have sufficient capital, also the right skill, which we just evaluated, and then you have a right partner also, because let's be honest, you won't go far if you're working alone. Obviously, you can. The first step could be that maybe you become a freelance consultant or freelance in something expert, and then eventually go there. That can also be one of the approaches. But the point being that find something that is very close to your current reality so that eventually you reach there, right? So I think my answer to that would be to kind of do an evaluation in this way to arrive at your own answer. But I think, again, as I said, there's no right or wrong in terms of what is the right approach, but being more self-aware in terms of where do you stand right now and how can you then move to the next stage of wherever you are, and then the next, and then the next, to eventually, have your own uh, roadmap of your career, basically, which can be, again, as I said, first learning at job and then business, or just starting it right off.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. I mean, I think we've got a lot of inspiration after this. I just wanted to understand, as you just said, that you cannot build a business alone. I wanted to understand, and I also want our audience to understand what is the importance of networking in our ecosystem, in
Yeah.
startup ecosystem, and in the corporate lives. So, can you please highlight that as well
Sure,
for
sure,
us?
sure. Yeah. Before I answer, I would like to address that we're living in a day and age where you can actually build a business alone. But again, then it again goes back to the same evaluation. Do you want to, right? How
Right.
big, how small, what is the model? What do you actually want to do? Because right now it's just we're calling it a business, but business in what? So, for instance, for some reason, let's say you're someone who has more affinity to work for yourself, and you feel like, yeah, I can do something in content because it's also something you can build right now. For instance, you say that you pick an interest that you uh, have, build a personal brand around it, which needs no one else, which is just you, and start building a business around it, because that's also a business model these days.
Right.
In this case, you don't need anyone. But at the same
Mhm.
time, having said that, you'll still need strategic partners, people who you work with, brands. So you can't work alone in that sense, right? Eventually, you'll need someone else. Supply
At
and
the end
demand.
of the day, we would need some support or some help from somebody.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the same thing as supply and demand. You're the supply, but where's the
Right.
demand? You have to get it. That's the partnership. That's the transaction. That's the business then. Yeah. Now coming to your question about networking, I think I really like this question simply because a lot of people who are talking about networking, and drawing from my personal experience, I'm not someone who really likes to do that, go to networking events and then network, and traditional sense of, hey, you should do that. Why I'm bringing this up is also because sometimes we get answers which are like fundamentally right but maybe not relevant. So in that sense, networking is important, but not for the sake of, because when you have a bigger network, you'll get to something, you'll get more people who you can. So that's a very different approach. Maybe it works for other people, but for me, it never worked because I never related to it. But if it works for you, go for it. Attend more networking sessions, make it fun. Just try to have conversations with people and see what's happening. But if you're like someone who's like me, who doesn't maybe vibe with that approach, then my approach would be a little different, which is just try to uh, scratch your itch, if I may. and try to do whatever you're doing. And whenever
Mm-hmm.
you fail at something, find the next person you know. It doesn't have to be someone who's an industry expert or whatever. Find the
Mm-hmm.
next person you know and ask a question, hey, can you help? And if you cannot help, do you know someone who can help me? And this is a very organic way of just getting to the solving of a problem. And in the process, it's not a transactional conversation where you get the solution and then you say
Right.
bye, but it's more of a building of a, a small ecosystem for yourself for support. And then you say, hey, thanks for help. This is what I can do for you. Whenever you need help, you can, you know, in this domain, I'll be happy to support. And in this process, you build some meaningful connections who are there for each other, a support system, things of that sort. I think this is more of a me approach, how I do it. And this way, I don't have to look for a networking opportunity or thing like that, because I'm also not too good at it, to be honest. And so I can't give you an answer there, but I think a generic answer is go do it.
I
But yeah,
think
I
I
think,
think it's the best answer
yeah.
because, yeah, sorry to cut you in between. You're saying
No, no,
something.
no, no, no. Yeah. So I was just
Yes.
saying that for me,
Go
the
on.
answer was then like just organically ask for help, give, support wherever you can. In the process, not only you build, professional relationships, some of those relationships for me on my personal level has just given me support generally in other areas of life also. I think then you get to more, I would say, meat in the
Right.
connection, right? It's not just, hey, do this for me, I do this for you, bye. That there's nothing wrong in it, but I think there's another approach to it also that we could possibly look at if you think it's right for you. Yeah,
Right. I think that is going to be the best approach because 90% of us, we don't know how to network. We
yeah,
understand the importance of networking, but we don't know how to do it. So, traditionally, if we do it as of now, the importance of traditional networking because of LinkedIn, it has increased a lot, but is also decreased in terms of LinkedIn connectivity because everybody who's sending you a connection request, you assume that there might be something this is
yeah.
going to be transactional upon. So
Sure, sure.
nobody
But
wants, right? Yes,
yeah, but since you mentioned LinkedIn, I think that's also a part of the answer, which is now you have access to anyone practically. Uh, but I think the problem is that you send a connection request, which I also get a lot, but I don't, let's say, press like whatever, accept it. Uh, I would say do that, but don't stop there, because that is not how you will actually gain access to what
right.
they have or what they
Mhm.
can add value to for you, or you can add value to someone. Have conversations. So basically, don't just stop there. Once you're done, maybe offer some help in whatever you can do for them. And then
Mhm.
by saying, hey, thanks for connecting, I can help you in so and so. By the way, can we meet for a 15-minute catch up, chat, coffee, whatever?
Right.
Uh, because it's during those conversations you'll actually get to know if there's some value in this connection or not, if you can give value or not, or if they can give value there. So I would say in that sense, there's so many avenues like LinkedIn where you can have access to people, but important thing is in conversations and value that you exchange between each other more than anything. Because I'll give you my personal example. In fact, one of my very close business partners, I never met for 2 years while we were working for 2 years, because I met them through LinkedIn. And just commented on one of their posts, and then I thought there was someone who I can talk to for some help in terms of business problems. And I said, hey, what do you think, can we work together, this and that. We had a couple of conversations. It took us, let's say, 1 year of just having some back and forth in terms of building the relationship professionally. to arrive at, hey, can we do business together? So I'm saying
Right.
it's not just, so in that sense, why I'm sharing this story is it's not about a LinkedIn request or one chat. It's about building a relationship, which is a real human relationship for 6 months, 1 year,
Right.
to even say that, hey, you can do something. Maybe it won't take you this much time, but I'm saying it'll be much more valuable and dependable then. But there's another approach also where you can just say, hey, can you help me on this thing and that thing and get done and then move forward. Yeah.
I think that was incredible approach because as of now, what in my I watch a lot of podcasts, I read a lot of material, but networking by definition is to push us to push our boundaries and go and talk to people, and nobody clearly helps us understand what to talk to those people. How do you
Yeah.
randomly add somebody on your LinkedIn connection list and start speaking to someone? So I think that would be a perfect example to it, and that would be a perfect approach also to take her a bit and ask for help, because if you are in need of help, that would solve your problem, and again that would help you to also build strong connections. So I think a
Yeah.
win-win situation to both the ends. I think we are towards the end of the series, towards the end of our videos. My last question to you would be, what inspiration or what all advice would you give to MBA or PGDM grads who are still doing their masters, who are still going to the college, but yet dream of building a business one day?
Yeah. Uh, I think the best thing that I could say uh, is that the thing with whoever is graduating now or after this point when we're recording this video, uh, it's fair to say that they have more opportunities than ever in terms of what they could do, what they could build. I would say
Mm-hmm.
it's even important for you because of this reason to understand what you want
Mm-hmm.
and to answer a question, which is whatever goals you have, is it your own or is it borrowed for someone else? Right?
That's a
Is it?
great advice. I think I should put that in caption.
Yeah, because the thing is, sometimes it's because you are in a network where startup is a thing and everyone is building it. That's why you think it will be the right thing to do that, and you end up borrowing that goal, saying, "I want to build a startup." Maybe you become successful and it works out for you. But I think for me, it'll be more along the lines of to answer the question to yourself, which is, hey, is it my goal or is it some just because someone said it's a cool goal to have? Because then you don't, because building a business is a hard thing. So you should be in it and for the right reasons. So you should know why you're doing it, because if you know why you're doing it, then you can persevere and you can basically keep at it and fight the challenges that exist uh, in the journey of building a business or whatnot. But if you're doing it for the wrong reasons and maybe not your own reasons, then you'll be always disconnected and you'll be like, "Okay, there's too much stress and this and that," which will always be there. But then you don't have any real driver towards pushing through and solving for it. So I think, yeah, I think this is what I'll do. And I think this is a powerful exercise that I also uh, regularly get into and ask myself from time to time, because you can always do it again and again, and there are gaps always that you can fill, to make progress.
Awesome, amazing. I think this story of yours is going to inspire a lot of young minds.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
yeah,
Shailesh for joining in. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And I think most remarkably, you have changed the definition of networking, at least for me, because
yeah,
traditional approach is not going to help us anymore. I think we should dive in and ask for help. That is the only way to build
yeah,
relationships. So thank you so much for joining in. And as we conclude this inspiring session of Expert Matters, your journey remind us success that is not straight line, but a series of experiences, lesson, and bold decision. Uh, I am so grateful to you to join in and inspire young minds. Thank you so much from ISBR Business School and from the Expert Matters team. We'll see
yeah,
you soon.
yeah, yeah. Thanks, Shruti, for the opportunity, and I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And I'm glad that I was of value here. Yeah,
Thank you so much. Thanks.
awesome. Okay, see you.